There are many interesting and non-trivial USB-based attacks. Some of them can be attacks carried out by the host, by the computer we're connecting the USB peripheral to, but most of them, I think the most common ones, are attacks that are carried out by peripherals that are actually malicious. They're infected or malicious. Once you connect them to the computer, they can do mostly anything you can by achieving physical access to the computer. For example, what we talked about are different types of such attacks. One category would be microcontrollers. Okay, you can program a microcontroller to impersonate a USB peripheral. For example, you can program a TNC microcontroller or an Arduino to act as if it was a keyboard or a mouse. And once you program it to act like a keyboard, once you connect it, it actually starts injecting key presses. So it's actually like having someone sitting on your computer and typing something. So you can imagine what you can do. That's one category of attacks that we've surveyed. Another category, and this is a more complicated category to implement, but once you can do it, you can get away with it much more easily because you don't have to implant anything inside an innocuous casing. All you have to do is just take an actually off-the-shelf product like a keyboard or a mouse, and you have to find a way to reprogram its firmware. And then all you have to do is give it a firmware update, which is a legitimate process. It's supported by the protocol. And you update it to do whatever you want, to do your bidding, and it becomes automatically malicious. So we have this person who bought this product. It was fine when he bought it, maybe, assuming the manufacturer didn't do that. But assuming that it is benign, he bought it benign, and once it was reprogrammed by firmware update, it's now malicious, and it's owned by someone, and someone has full control, perhaps, over the computer that it's connected to. We surveyed 29 attacks. This was correct for last year. I assume there are new types of attacks that have been developed, and probably some of them have been published. But 29 different attacks, which we divided into three main categories. One of them was the microcontroller, programmable microcontrollers that you can impersonate peripherals with. And the other one was actually the firmware update. This is also known in the academic circles as bad USB. Maybe you've heard of it. It's a family of attacks that are based on reprogramming the firmware. And the other one is, it's what we called electrical attacks. Okay, and in 2015, that was the first time someone showed how they can actually generate or build an electrical component that's enclosed in a flash drive casing. It looks like a flash drive, but it's not a flash drive. It's actually something that will conduct a power surge attack once you connect it to the computer, and it could fry the entire computer. So there are probably other new developments in those type of attacks in that category. That's basically the three categories. If you go into a coffee shop and you have a charger there, or an airport or a train station, and you don't own that charger, you don't know what that piece of hardware really does. It may not even be a charger. It could be a microcontroller that's hidden inside a charger casing. It could be something else. You don't know. So once you inject it into your phone, anything could happen. What I demonstrated to you is how you connect a keyboard to a phone, but it's not. It doesn't look like a keyboard. It looks like a charger, but it's actually a microcontroller that I reprogrammed. I programmed it to act as a keyboard, so it impersonates a keyboard, and it looks like a charger. And it's connected to the socket, but there's no electrical part of that charger. It's just a microcontroller, and what I showed you is how you connect it to the phone and you lock the phone. So it's a sort of ransomware that I demonstrated, and you would have to, if you want me to tell you the PIN number, then you would have to pay me or something like that. So this is something that can really happen to you, and there are other types of attacks. People can reprogram your phone. You wouldn't even know about it. Okay, so you would actually be carrying spyware with you. You would have no knowledge of it just because you injected something that you weren't aware of. So the general rule of thumb is just treat technology as something that you don't naturally trust. Us as users, we have a tendency to trust technology, to trust peripherals. You know, you trust your flash drive, you trust your keyboard. You trust it because you're not aware. but you should treat it as if it was a syringe. You wouldn't find a syringe in the parking lot, pick it up, and and inject it to yourself, right? Because you're aware you could be infected. You have no knowledge of what could happen to you, but you are afraid because it could be dangerous. So this is exactly the same thing. And now that we're moving from the cyber world to the physical world, this is going to become more and more clear to people, and we have to get the word out. Bring your own charger, okay? Use your own hardware if you can. Don't trust Wi-Fi networks if you can. You should educate yourself about different levels of security. For example, 3G is commonly believed to be more secure than Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is easier to hack. Stuff like that. These are important rules that will keep you safe. So anything like that you can do. Again, you don't stop using technology because obviously that's not the idea, but until manufacturers do what they should to make hardware more secure, and until regulators enforce laws that would help us stay safe, we need to be extra aware and just follow the simple rules. Just be careful. Don't trust anything.